Hi, I'm Margo Sorum with Yoga Therapists of Alaska, and this session is geared towards the Alaska Psychology Internship Consortium, and our first session that was all about the nervous system and the polyvagal system. And so we're looking for these practices that are going to help us self-regulate so that we're able to co-regulate and that we are just our happy, joyful selves. So this is going to be a bottom-up process, meaning we're going to work with the physical body to make ourselves feel good and to help increase our vagal tone. This could be done with your legs up the wall, but today we're going to teach it with a bolster, or it could be with a blanket or quilt underneath you. So you're going to have your bolster, lie on your back, take your hips up, and slide that bolster or blanket underneath you. And you're truly going to support your sacrum bone. So just make sure it's not up by your rib cage, but that it's truly down and underneath your pelvis. And that way when you take your knees up, your chest sinks down to the floor and you get nestled in. You don't need anything behind your head. The knees come in and then let them float up. And notice that my legs aren't too far forward because then I have to grip with my abs and my ribs flare up. So your legs are truly in this position where your feet are above your hips and your knees will be a little bit bent and a little bit of flexion and they'll externally rotate. So they'll look a little bit like diamonds from your viewpoint. This is the pose. It's called Viparita Karani and it's a conscious inversion. And simply inversion is going to help our nervous system to reset. Your brain and your spinal column are right against the earth. Close your eyes and just start to tap into your breath. And just being here for 2 minutes to 5 minutes is enough time to help your nervous system calm down and reset. At work, we talked about maybe being in your office and being able to lay down on the floor and just putting your legs up over a chair or putting your legs up the wall. But the wonderful thing about being in this position is we're going to be able to do some extra movement. So the extra movement is going to be with your feet to start with. Keep your thighs still, the knees still, and your shins still, and just begin to circumduct the feet. And the more stable you can be in the thigh bones, in your femur bones, and in the shin bones, you'll truly start to get a workout into the 26 bones in your feet, and it'll translate into the 100 muscles that connect the foot into the lower leg. So this is actually starting to burn a little bit. And remember, the feet are a little bit deconditioned because they've been in shoes. So it's nice to do this in your socks if you can, or with your bare feet, and then go the other direction. Breathe. Whew. Relax and close your eyes and then really track the sensations. And remember, a big part of strengthening the nervous system and its ability to be resilient is that ability to interocept. That interoception is about identifying sensations, feelings, and emotions. So just notice those sensations. Okay, bring one leg in and hold it. Bend the other knee and step it in front of your bolster, in front of your blanket. And then really push into that left foot as if you were going to lift your hips up off the bolster. That's wedged a little better now. And you'll feel the quadriceps stretch. You can call this a stretch, strengthen, because you are putting some pressure down into the foot It's going to help tack the bones and skeleton in place, and that way that muscle can lengthen and strengthen. And then keep pressure on the floor as you slide the foot out, lean into the heel, and sink down. And you're going to press with just the right amount of pressure and start to interocept a stretch at the front of the hip. It's your hip flexor and that psoas muscle. And we talked about the idea that right now there's quite a lot of sensation and there's action. So it's a little bit of the sympathetic nervous system, the SNS, stimulation. But because we're working with the breath, because we're using the mind to track the sensation, we're also connecting to that ventral vagal complex. So we're being able to create that resilience while we transition between those 5 global states. Lean into your rib cage so much so that it starts to let this foot come off the floor. And then you're going to abduct and adduct the leg. And you're going fishing, just like you're skimming the surface of a pond. And look for new sensations. The sensation I feel is that you're stretch strengthening. You're working on this whole psoas cable. And then go fishing. Lean down into a spot that feels good. That idea that, especially when we work with this muscle, this hip flexor area, it's the psoas. The psoas is your running muscle. It is your fight-flight muscle. And so we're activating it, we're strengthening it, and yet we're staying centered and we're staying connected. Whew, it's sensational. And then track that knee back into your chest, sink into your pelvis, sink into the rib cage. Stay grounded as the legs float. It's almost like you have astronaut legs. They're kind of free in gravity right now, and they could tip forward or back or to either side. Find that weightless spot. And then close your eyes and track sensation. And there will be residue from that psoas stretch. See if you can kind of internally map that. And then the other leg. Bring your left knee in or your other side in. Bend your other knee and step it in front of the bolster. And start with pressure. Lean into that right foot with enough pressure to engage with that right quadricep. Using the breath to stay connected. Slide that right foot out or your foot out along the floor with some intensity and lean into the heel bone. And the pressure you place into the heel will have a translation directly into how much you feel the sensation across that hip flexor psoas area. And in many ways right now, we're also switching a little bit with that dorsal vagal in the sense that right now I'm pretty fixed. I'm kind of frozen in this position. My pelvis is pinned against this bolster, and it's a very vulnerable, immobilized position. And yet, because I'm connecting with my breath, I'm making this safe. And I'm practicing that safety within vulnerability. That safety within freezing. Pull the rib cage down. Let that leg hover off the floor. Notice that my heel is staying lower than my bolster. And if it's up higher, it just doesn't give as much traction into the structure. So looking for that activated place. Lean down into that heel again. Breathe. And as you're ready, bring that back in. Float your legs up. You've just completed a full sequence. Namaste.